was up 1.3, Paris up 1.6, and Frankfurt was up 2.5. Regarding the virus, U.S. hospitalizations, new case, and positive test rates all have continued to trend higher based on data reported yesterday. 34 of 50, that's more than 2/3 of states, report that their 7-day new case count is up versus a week ago. 11 states report at least 100 new cases per million per population per day. They are Arizona, South Carolina, Florida, Arkansas, Utah, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, Nevada, and Georgia. Also, Anthony Fauci was commenting not too long ago that the coronavirus, as he sees it, isn't taking a summer break. There was a feeling that the higher temperatures would slow it down. Apparently, that is not. So he said that just look at what's happening in the Sun Belt where it is hot. That's where you're getting a lot of infections. However, the market is shrugging this all off because at the moment, from a market standpoint, the unfeeling thing that it is, only really matters if it's going to cause another national shutdown. And to that point, government officials at pretty much all levels, state and local and federal, have been pretty consistent saying that unless the numbers get really, really worse, there's not going to be another widespread economic shutdown. Also, keep in mind that the market is a little bit more cheerful about this whole thing anyway, because of advancements in treatments. We have remdesivir and we have dexamethasone. There's increased hospital capacity.
States was
There's more
pleading with
experience in
Chinese leader
treatment
Xi
than we
Jinping
saw in the
to
initial
help him
surge.
win his
Also,
election in the
we're not
fall
getting
by
that second
buying
wave in
agricultural
the
products and
New
helping the
England and
president
New York
in farm
and New
states. The White House
Jersey.
has been at pains to deny that, saying that they are
That was the
not
first hotspot, and they
working with the
haven't had
Chinese. They've
any
never
resurgence, to be clear. So I think the market is beginning to look at this like, although we know COVID is not flu, from an economic perspective, the market is kind of looking at it maybe like it is. We'll get a vaccine by the end of the year. That's what the market is saying. So this will just be the flu that doesn't cause everything to shut down. Okay, turning our attention to domestic reports. We're having new home sales probably coming out right now, but data already released. We had the June U.S. market manufacturing PMI, just like the European and Asian PMIs, beat last month's 46.8 versus last month's of 37. So, let's do stocks in the news. Where do you want to start? Shall we start with Carnival?
Let's start with Carnival.
Yeah, so they've been showing some improvement here. Let's put up the 20-day moving average. The news on them is they said they are canceling all cruises now through September 30th. A little bit longer than expected, but I think it looks like the trend is still slightly higher. I don't know. What do you think, Craig?
I think it's slightly higher. It's testing some of those support levels. It doesn't seem to be showing a lot of life, which I would expect. I would also have expected it to maybe sell off just a smidgy more than it has because of the September delay, because they're not getting any real cash flow. But it seems to be a patient stock, kind of waiting to see what happens next, so to speak.
Yeah, so anyway, I put in a level there for everybody. Horizontal supports there, around 17-ish, 17 and a half. So see if we can get back above the 20-day moving average. We've got Spirit Systems. All right, so these guys, they are Boeing's largest supplier, and unfortunately, they are asking their lenders for relief. So it wasn't the best news, and you might want to watch this one. Will we go down and test the lows? I don't know, but we certainly just broke horizontal support on this one. Asking, so
we're going to want to see some follow through there on that throughout the day, keeping an eye on, it's downward. Is it going to make some new lows throughout the day? It seems to be moving lower, and current average true range, may start to expand a little bit throughout the day. We'll see here.
Found support there at the third support pivot, but so I think key level intraday there is right around 23.93. We'll see if we can take that. But all in all, news was not great. Okay, Starbucks. Kind of range bound. Anyway, news there. They are actually doing the impossible breakfast sandwich, quote unquote. So this is obviously plant-based sausage that they're looking at. Let's just see what that did to Beyond Meat, who's the supplier of that. You would think it'd do a little bit better, but it's still in a nice uptrend, that one.
It's definitely the princess of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Next one, Craig, you had mentioned this one when we were talking. Let's take a look at, you want to see a gap. We were talking about this one. Boink.
TBIO, yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
something
so
like an $8 jump overnight.
Yeah, no kidding. So the news here is that they announced a deal with Sanofi to develop another mRNA-based vaccine for infectious diseases. So I guess based on Moderna, a lot of these mRNA vaccines for different diseases might become easier to make. I don't know, but certainly what you don't want to see is it to start filling the gap. Obviously, you'd like it to hold the low for today at this stage.
Gap up and stay up, so to speak.
Exactly that. Let's take a look. Amazon's in the news. Well, what are you going to say about this one? It's just pushing its way higher. This is
it's strong.
It is strong. It's been holding up the XLY for sure. Let's see where the 10-day is on this. Yeah, short-term traders might want to use that. And on balance volume is certainly confirming this move. The news is they are going to launch a $2 billion fund to invest in clean energy. Let's look at another mega cap tech stock, which has been the market's go-to area. Google. Be interesting to see if this one can break out. It's kind of range bound here. It could have a pretty good breakout if it did. But I think, what'd you say here, Craig? Would you play it now, or would you wait for breakout one way or the other? What would you do
here? I'd be patient on this right now. It's just not it. So it's bumping up against the ceiling there, 3 or 4 times. It hasn't shown any follow through quite yet. It's almost as if it's a race car, dragsters at the starting line, kind of waiting to see. It's definitely waiting for something to happen. The market is definitely saying something may happen that will push a little bit higher. I'm not jumping in quite yet. This just doesn't quite look like the way I would like it as a confirmation of moving to a higher high at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. The news was that a lot of their employees told their CEO yesterday they don't want the company to work with police departments in any form.
Interesting.
They they have the facial recognition that at least both
Hmm.
they and Microsoft, I said, we're going to hold up for a year for sure on facial recognition, sharing that um, with the police departments. Okay, what else we got? We got a lot here today. We've got Salesforce, another popular cloud stock. So speaking of breakouts, this one did break. And often when you get these breakouts, you want to follow the 10-day moving average. Measured move target here, again, just a guess. So basically 167 to 184, is that 17 points? So 17 plus 184 would be what, 202?
202 target, yeah.
Yeah, so you probably will run into a little resistance at the old high, but the measured move target puts it up to about 202. The news here is that they are working with Siemens on a workplace software suite, which will help in social distancing. So it's kind of a timely product they're trying to do there.
And that would be just past their previous high back in just before March, back in February, if it pushes past that to its target.
Exactly. Okay. In the travel space, we looked at Carnival. American Airlines. Oops. It was getting better. We said yesterday, watch the 20-day. Unfortunately, you got another chance to buy it if it comes down to the 12 3/4 area, if it can hold there, or else we're going to go right back into that range. News here was they are increasing the size. We talked yesterday, they are planning to sell convertible bonds and a secondary stock offering, and they raised the amount from $1.5 billion to $2 billion.
Yeah, this looks like one you can be patient on. It's testing that particular support level again, and I'm just wondering, what else might be lurking within their business model that is a headwind to them catching another bid here.
Yeah, we'll have to. They just need more people to fly, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, see if it drifts down and holds the 1272 level. Okay, let us go and take a look at this one's been in the news a lot. It's been on a tear. This is Peloton. So there was some notes from Cohen and Company. They said it's the best small to mid cap idea that they are seeing out there, and they point to an increase in engagement and subscriptions helped by both marketing and, of course, people using it as opposed to going to gyms, at least for a while. Now the gyms are reopening, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. This is on a tear. Don't fight the tape on this one, right, Craig?
Absolutely. This is one that's showing a lot of gusto, as they would say, and probably spinning through a lot of red tape. But they are moving higher quickly, and they don't seem to be slowing down. And it stands to reason that people are spending a little bit more time at home on their spin bikes, working out during this unprecedented time in our nation's history. So certainly something that looks to continue for a while here. I don't see, from what I see on your chart and the charts that I watch, I don't see any reason for it to actually feel like it's got to be any less stronger than it is today. So there's certainly some room for it to move yet. and it's starting its breakout today. That's not, something that I would say is confirmed yet, but it certainly looks like it.
Absolutely. Okay, here's some news on the credit card companies. Let's take a look at those. All right, so here's MasterCard. Oppenheimer downgraded it to perform from outperform. I don't see the reasoning so much, but interestingly, that's gone back into a range. We have a trading range building here. So, put it on a watch list with alerts, either above or below the range, and you can take into a momentum trade. So they downgraded that, but on Visa, which looks very similar, they kept their outperform rating on that, and they raised their target for what it's worth to 202, which is not saying much since that's simply the top of the range, though. So
yeah.
Anyway, they said that they're going to gain market share from MasterCard, I guess. So they said accelerating volume in the European market. In the tech space, it's a lot of news today on stocks. So Micron, trying to hold its 20-day moving average there. News here is they were actually downgraded to market perform from outperform at BMO Capital Markets, which cited a balanced risk to reward profile, saying that the fundamentals in the memory chip market are softening just a little bit.
It strikes me as interesting that it would be downgraded and then not quite enter its previous range yet. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
We'll see if that, today is one of those days where, it may be a telling sign, or it may hold that level and just kind of float along there. Not to say that analysts are incorrect, just saying that maybe the market is saying, well, okay, this is a place where it could stay for a while and not actually cause any harm or give anybody else a needed push to get in. It just looks like it's kind of waiting again on this particular stock. It's just, I wouldn't consider buying it quite yet if I were thinking about it.
Yeah, what would be your trigger on it, you think?
So for me, I would want to see a little bit of follow through today. I also like to make sure that there's a little bit of volume behind that follow through, as well as it settles below the particular moving average. So you've got, which moving average do you have up there? I see.
That's the 20. Yeah.
The 20. I'd like to see it fall below the 20 and maybe settle below the 20 for a day or two.
All right. Okay, this one has been all over the place. So obviously, the interesting news on this, though, is that JP Morgan came out and says this stock is going to lose a third of its value for what it's worth.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, if you take it from the high, it's almost lost a third of its value. Yeah. So I don't know.
That's exactly right.
But
what did they really?
Yeah.
A third of its value from what?
Yeah,
that's
from
that's the question.
Yeah, I guess from yesterday's close. That's what they said. Who knows? But certainly with these kind of newer stocks, very volatile, you just do fewer shares if you want to trade them because they move really, really quickly. Okay, we looked at the transports from time to time. So here is a stock in there. We talked about in the transports, the truckers and the rails are, kind of holding it up. We're making a correction by time here, it looks like, on this stock. Look for a breakout one way or another. The news on them, JB, on here, is at KeyBank. They were upgraded to overweight. Let's see if there's any follow through. Again, I wouldn't buy it now. I would wait for a breakout one way or the other.
It's another one of those that is testing its high. It's like that balloon sitting at the ceiling. It wants to go higher, but the market just isn't giving quite enough oomph behind it to push it higher and keep it there.
Yes, totally agree. Okay. Let's see, just a couple of others. Let's just do a couple of others that are kind of popular. Etsy. So they've broken out. Had a nice range there. Let's see what the measured move target is on this one. So let's say 67 to, let's say 87. So 88, 21 points would put it at 109. So this would be your measured move target there if it can get there. The news on them, they were reiterated outperform at RBC Capital. And let us go for one more, and then we'll take a look at the indices. Nike's been in the news. Yeah, it's interesting. Our feeling here on both charting the markets and Trader Talk is we're going kind of into maybe a little trading range on the overall market. We can see that on some of these leading stocks too, just more getting a little bit range bound. Anyway, Nike was reiterated outperform at Needham and Company.
Everything seems to be moving sideways as almost the typical summer market starts to come into play. It seems like I had mentioned earlier, Lee, when we were talking before the show, sort of seems like the market's kind of, walking in its sleep a little bit in some cases. There was a little bit of excitement earlier today on the open, and we've kind of traded down and then back a little bit up towards the open. So it just seems to be like a bobber kind of floating along the water here in the summer market as it moves. All of these seem to be, showing that sort of market activity.
Yeah, I agree, and we can see it here on the S&P. It's the same thing. Critical. We're at kind of a critical level here, though. Will we? We've been talking about this gap, and
can we fill that?
Exactly. So
it would be healthy for it too, right?
It definitely would be healthy for it. We would like it to, if we can break through here, I mean, you could have a pretty quick run up to, 3,200, but it hasn't done it yet.
What do you think the catalyst would be to make that market move like that quickly? Would it be something in trade talks? Would it be something in the COVID idea? Would it be, the COVID world? Would it be something, a surprise number that maybe hits the tape in the next month or so? What do you think about that, Lee?
Well, yeah, I mean, over the next month, of course, if we get some inclinations about what's going to go on with earnings season, it starts on, July 13th. So that's just 3 weeks. If it, the market, I think you would have to have some pretty decent surprises though, because the market is basically saying, we don't care what happened in Q2, really. We're forward looking. We want to see what's going to happen in 2021. But if it turns out that Q2 that the market is writing off is much better than they had thought, that might be some catalyst.
Right.
Or
I find it interesting that, there's a lot of talk about, COVID and these other things, but we've forgotten, that there's political things going on, and I'm not political in nature myself, but we've got an election coming up as well.
Yeah, and as we talked on charting the markets, when we were 100 days from the election, that generally speaking, if the Democrat starts polling higher than the incumbent Republican based on history, the market's a little rockier than if the polling for the Republican incumbent is better, then the market tends to do a little bit better. But again, the sample size is kind of small on that, but
True.
for what it's worth. But I think, you know, the VIX is still elevated, I believe, on the November contract, just because of that, though, or the October-November contract for the election. So anyway, key level here, will we be able to break through 31.45? We'll have to see. Let's take a look at the Qs. Then we'll stop for some questions, and then we'll do sectors. I believe it's another high.
Yep.
So little breakout of the little range up here.
Mm-hmm.
It has been
hitting that 31.45 level as well just now. So interesting.
Yeah, and the S&P, we'll see.
Yep.
All right, so we have some questions here. Let's see, yesterday on Trader Talk, we mentioned 2 moving averages that intraday traders use as a crossing signal. Yeah, some traders use the 8 and 13 day moving average because they're Fibonacci numbers. So some people use that. More generally on 5-minute charts, though, as we said, people use the 20-period exponential looking for support or resistance. Okay, we've got a question from Paul in Colorado. Big difference between the RSI and OBV on the QQQ. So let's take a look at that. So you can't say that we are getting non-confirmation from the OBV. It's been going the right way. And I think this is your point, right? That the RSI, we're making a high here. It is not yet at a high. It's also, let's see what the level is on that. Well, it's at 69 right now. Why am I looking at that? Because divergence. So I see your point there, Paul. We do have a little bit of momentum divergence on this, but momentum divergences when you are basically on an uptrending stock, if the high is still right around, if the RSI is still right around 70, it is not as predictive as if you are not in overbought territory. So there is one, yes. I'm not quite as worried about it because we're basically at overbought levels. If we were at like 60 or something, that would be a little different story. But remember, even if we had that, it could just suggest a pullback to the 20-day moving average or something. It doesn't have to be a trend killer. It can just say you can have a little bit of a pullback. But to your point, I do see it. I'm just not quite as worried because it's still basically an overbought territory. But good observation there. Let's see what else we have here. With the VIX around 30, above 25, does it give an indication of how the market behaves this summer? Well, as let's put up the VIX. You know the number that I'm looking at, we've talked about this before. I got that red line right in there. I would like to see it drop below 25. Because every time it gets
definitely
down,
like to see that with the market trending up too.
Yeah. So maybe there's still a little hedging activity going on. It's certainly settling down a little bit, but every time it gets down to 25, you get a little bout of volatility, it seems. So it's still suggesting a little bit of volatility. If we can break that 25 level, that would speak more to Craig's point about having a real lazy summer. We got a question. Any way to screen for breakouts since we're in the summer doldrums? Yeah, why don't we actually do that today? We'll show you a pre-built screen that you can look for breakouts. That's a good question, Ralph. And that's what we'll do when we do our screening today. Okay. We got a question from Joel in Texas. There'll be some changes to the Russell Index holdings on Friday. Heard from Jeff Kleintop, it'll be the biggest change ever. See the Russell behaving differently once this happens. Well, that's a good point. I mean, obviously they said on May 8th what the changes will be, so that's in there. But yeah, what we should do is actually take a screenshot of what's in it now and what is in it after the Russell just to see how the sector action has changed a little bit, or how it would change. Yeah, so that is a good point. And actually, it'd be kind of interesting too. We have on July 13th, we're going to have Jeff on Jeff's World, a weekly show, and we can ask him specifically what he thinks about that going forward. But yeah, I mean, if there's a big constitution change, not just in the companies, but the sector weightings, it could behave a little differently. Because right now it's being held back a little bit. There's a lot of financials and energy stocks in the Russell, beside technology stocks, and they have been kind of weak. So yeah, very good point. Okay. Let's see, we have a question from North Carolina about stock slices. Yeah, what you can do is you can just go to trading on Schwab.com, and you can buy equal dollar amounts in any S&P 500 stocks for as little as $5 per position. So you just put in how much in dollars you want, and if it's a fractional share, it'll buy a fractional share. Now keep in mind, like everybody was saying, oh good, I can buy Tesla that way. Well, Tesla is not in the S&P 500, unfortunately. So it has to be an S&P 500 stock. All right. Let's take a look at sector actions, and then we'll do that breakout screen. Yeah, a little cyclical rotation here, Craig. We got steel, financials, yeah, materials, and the only one that's not participating like you think it might be would be industrials. Remember, transportation is in industrials. So let's just take a look at a couple of them, but then we'll do the screen. So let's just take a look at, see if financials are getting a bid. It's looking just like the market, although at a lower level.
Yeah.
It filled the gap, but then it just dropped. Let's see if the support can hold here at 23-ish.
I noticed the 10-year is kind of sitting in a comfortable middle position of its most recent range in the last 4 or 5 days. So maybe we will see that the financials will react kind of the same way.
Yeah, a really good point. Okay. So let's just do the screen. Actually, I have time to do that. So let's get Screener Plus, and then for a breakout screen that's pre-built, we have uptrend breakout with increasing volume.
One of my favorite screens too, by the way, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, I've used this one too. Let's just go over the criteria. So last trade greater than 10, and the high is greater than the 20-day high. So there's one part of the breakout. You're making a 20-day high. The average volume over the last 5 days greater than the average volume over the last 6 months. So you're getting average value for 1 month. So you're getting increasing volume over the last week, suggesting perhaps buying pressure. And then at least 100,000 shares. And then to help the breakout along, now we have return on equity greater than 15%. You can use that or not as your fundamental. I'm going to show you how to modify it just a little bit. So let's take, well, that's an IBD criteria. I guess we could leave that in there. And then to help the breakout, we have the 15-day moving average greater than the 50. So there's your uptrend. Remember, it's uptrend and then now breaking out. And then momentum, the momentum for the last 10 days is greater than the momentum for the last 30 days. So that's 30. Now you can add, so this is a pre-built screen, but you can go in and modify it. So let's just see the Schwab A's and B's that are breaking out. And there's 10, right? So there is the screen. Let's get results. Nice list. See how they're doing. Now, some of these you'll get, I've used the screen forever. Some of these you'll get nice breakouts out of horizontal trading range. Other ones you just get ones that are really moving. So let's just take a look. If you see anything on the list, let us know and we'll take a look at that one. Bring it over here. All right, so Apple. There you go.
Yep.
So it is a good screen, right? And what would be the target here? Well, again, if you want to use some technical analysis 101, we got here a ascending triangle with the base of the triangle 326 to 358. It's like 20 points. 379 would be a trading target there.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, lots of requests here. Get that screener back up there. All right. Next one was HOLX. Yeah.
Joy from the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I'm in the great state of California, and this is not working for me right now, of course. Let's see if I can. A little bit of a glitch. Just let it sit here for a second. See if I can jog it.
I'm a graduate of Stevens Point.
Oh.
So Wisconsin holds a near and dear place in my heart. So.
All right, let's see if I can jog it back. There we go. Oh, there you go. You want to break out from a trading range?
Yeah, it is.
Now, I should also say in this, if you want more confirmation, it is good volume over the last few days, but if you want to know now that we are breaking out, you can always use that on the intraday charts, the average volume over time. And you'd like it to be above average. Right now, it's a little bit below. You'd like to see more like this, where the orange line is at this time of day for the last 5 days. So you'd like to see the blue line, which is today's volume, as opposed to volume on the average at this time of day. You'd like to see it a little stronger, but if you're trying to pick between them, maybe that's one way that you can try to narrow it down a little bit. But just based on a daily chart with what we're seeing here, so you see this is a pretty good screen for breakouts. Let's get another one. Target. Somebody wants to see target. So you broke out of this little range. What do you think, Craig? Would you wait until it takes out the high back at the end of May, or would you do it now?
I actually would, just because I do believe that, they may be making some strides in their overall online presence, but I know my my daughters, who shop a lot, have not been going to Target as much. It's one of their favorite stores to kind of peruse and look up and down the aisle. So I would actually be a little bit patient on this one.
Okay, maybe you would wait for confirmation to take out that high, perhaps.
I would, yes.
All right, there you've heard it. All right, let's see what else is on there. INVA was the next one we wanted to see. This one's kind of interesting. We broke out, nice big volume. Again, you might want to check the news when you get candles like that.
Yeah.
But you've got to wait. It's coming back. This is not unusual behavior when you break out and then you come back and you try to test the breakout level. You might want to see if it actually gets down there and tests it at this stage. Or you could say, I'll just buy it now because it's come back a little bit with a stop under the breakout level. It's how much confirmation you want. Remember, the more confirmation you want, generally the worse price you'll pay. The confirmation would be it tests and then starts going up. We don't know if that's going to happen yet, right?
Yeah, those last 2 days, though, that volume is pretty. It's the volume the last 2 days are pretty good. It's interesting that it's stalling a little bit here.
Yeah. But on the other hand, it's gone up. What, the last 2 days, it's gone up like 10%. So.
Yeah.
So anyway,
some people might peel off a little profit there.
Yeah. All right. What else is on the list? Oracle. We want to see Oracle.
Oracle.
There you go. Another breakout.
Yep.
Let's check the intraday volume on this one. Yeah, this is more what you want to see. See how the volume today is higher than the average. That versus what was the other one? HOLX. So if maybe you're trying to pick between them, this one looks a little better.
And the candle is green on that, so there's a little bit more follow through to the upside.
Exactly. Measured move on this. 51 to 55, roughly 4 points would put you at 59-ish for the measured move target. So, yeah. So to the question about screens, that's the one you want to do. And with that, they're telling us our time is up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Craig.
Thank you for having me, Lee.
All righty. Coming up next, what are bearish option strategies with senior derivative trading strategist Nina Milovach. And I'll be back later with senior wealth advisor Skylar Marin for charting the market. So stay tuned.